Okay, so get this right. I'm going through my mailbox the other day.
And amidst the usual junk mail and bills, I find this package.
Oh.
It's a worn, leather-bound book.
Yeah.
The kind that just screams, adventure! Inside, there are these fascinating fragments. It's like pages ripped from a philosophy course.
That's interesting.
But here's the thing. It's addressed to someone named Sophie. Not me. It's like I've stumbled onto a secret correspondence course, you know?
I see. So what's the story? What is this? Some kind of philosophical mystery?
It's even better than that. Turns out, this book, Sophie's World, is a novel.
Okay.
But it cleverly weaves in all these philosophical concepts as the story unfolds. So that's our deep dive. We're taking this mysterious philosophy course designed for someone else.
I'm intrigued. Where does this intellectual adventure begin?
It starts with a bang. We're introduced to the Pre-Socratics.
Ah, the philosophers who came before Socrates.
Exactly. These were the thinkers who dared to question, well, everything. They were obsessed with figuring out the essential nature of reality.
Right. They were trying to understand the universe without the framework of science or philosophy as we know it today.
Right. It's like staring into the abyss of the unknown, armed with nothing but their curiosity.
And a lot of courage to challenge the existing ways of thinking, which often relied on mythology and tradition.
Oh, totally. For example, Thales, one of the Pre-Socratics, believed everything came from water.
Water, yeah.
He saw water's life-giving properties and made this incredible leap, suggesting that water was the fundamental principle of everything.
And while we might view some of these early theories as, well, a bit simplistic today, it's important to remember the context. They were transitioning from explaining the world through myths and legends to seeking natural explanations. This marked a pivotal shift towards observation and rational inquiry, which are foundations of both science and philosophy as we know them.
It's like they laid the first bricks on a path that would lead to modern thought.
A very apt analogy.
And then Plato enters the scene, arguably one of the most influential figures in Western philosophy.
Absolutely.
He completely changed the game with this mind-blowing concept, the world of ideas.
The world of ideas.
Yeah, it can be a bit tricky to wrap your head around. Basically, Plato believed that there's this perfect, unchanging realm of forms. These forms are like the ideal blueprints for everything we see and experience in the physical world.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so there's a perfect form of a tree, a chair, even a perfect form of justice or beauty, all existing in this separate reality. And everything we experience here is just an imperfect copy of that ideal.
So you're saying there's this perfect idealized version of everything out there, and what we experience is just a pale imitation.
Precisely. Sophie's World illustrates this with the allegory of the cave.
The allegory of the cave, classic Plato.
Right. It's a powerful image. Imagine prisoners chained in a cave their whole lives. They've only ever seen shadows cast on the wall. They believe those shadows are reality.
I'm with you so far.
But what if one prisoner escapes? He goes out into the real world, experiences sunlight and depth for the first time.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
That's what Plato is getting at.
Yeah.
That maybe, just maybe, we can break free from the limitations of our senses to grasp a higher truth.
It's about questioning what we perceive to be true.
Exactly. But Plato wasn't the only big thinker in ancient Greece.
True. We can't forget about his student, Aristotle.
He brought a totally different perspective, more grounded, I'd say. While Plato was searching for truth in this realm of forms, Aristotle was all about the tangible world.
Right. He emphasized observation and categorization.
Yeah.
You could say he was like the original scientist.
Totally.
He believed that true understanding came from studying the natural world around us.
He was out there categorizing plants and animals,
Analyzing political systems.
laying the foundation for the scientific method.
Exactly. So we have Plato, the idealist, searching for truth in the heavens, and Aristotle, the empiricist, studying the world at his feet. Two giants of philosophy, each offering a distinct path to knowledge.
And that tension, right, between abstract ideals and empirical evidence.
Yes.
It's a recurring theme throughout the history of philosophy. And it highlights the incredible diversity in how we as humans try to answer the big questions.
It's a debate that continues to this day.
It's incredible how these philosophical debates from ancient Greece are still so relevant.
I know. It's like their ideas have echoed through the ages, shaping how we think and approach knowledge even today.
It makes you realize that some questions are timeless, you know?
Absolutely. But our journey through Sophie's world doesn't end with the Greeks.
Thankfully, as much as I love those ancient philosophers.
We're transported to a world in transition, a time when new ideas are emerging, challenging old certainties. This is where we encounter Hellenism.
Hellenism. Okay, that one I'm not so familiar with.
Picture this. Alexander the Great's conquests spread Greek culture across the Mediterranean and Middle East. Hellenism refers to this incredible period of cultural exchange. Greek ideas are mixing with Egyptian, Persian, and other Eastern influences. It's like a giant cultural melting pot. And out of this melting pot comes new schools of thought, new philosophies.
So philosophies born from this fusion of cultures.
Exactly. And many of these philosophies grapple with the uncertainty of this era. Take Stoicism, for example. It emphasized finding inner peace, virtue even, in the midst of chaos.
That resonates even today. The world feels uncertain, chaotic. So how do we find peace within that?
Exactly. Stoicism is about controlling what you can, your own thoughts, your reactions, in a world where so much feels beyond your control.
It's a philosophy for a world that feels constantly on edge.
Right. And as we move through Hellenism, we see this other monumental shift, the rise of Christianity.
That's where things get really interesting, because now you have the logic, the reason of Greek philosophy, clashing with the faith-based doctrines of this new religion. Talk about a culture clash.
It was a clash of titans, and Sophie's world really captures this through the story of Paul's sermon at the Areopagus in Athens.
Paul trying to explain Christianity to an audience steeped in Greek philosophy.
It highlights this tension that would come to define much of medieval thought, this struggle to reconcile faith and reason.
So how did these two seemingly opposing forces find a way to coexist?
Well, it was a gradual process, an ongoing dialogue.
Not just a sudden truce, then.
Not at all. And figures like St. Augustine played a crucial role.
Yeah.
Augustine was deeply influenced by Plato, but he also sought to harmonize those ideas with his Christian beliefs.
So you could say he was bridging these two worlds.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And centuries later, we see this effort continue with Thomas Aquinas. He was a giant of medieval philosophy.
Aquinas. I remember encountering his work in university.
He was heavily influenced by Aristotle, and he believed that faith and reason were not opposed, but rather they worked together to reveal truth.
So not an either-or, but a both-and. You could have faith and still engage in philosophical inquiry.
Absolutely. Aquinas argued that the universe operates according to natural laws, discoverable by reason,
Okay.
and also divine law, revealed through faith. He saw them as complementary, not contradictory.
It's remarkable how influential this period of intellectual history was, how these thinkers grappled with these fundamental questions about knowledge, truth, belief. It shaped the course of Western thought.
It did. And as we journey further into Sophie's world, we enter a period of incredible artistic and intellectual flourishing. The Renaissance.
Ah, the Renaissance. It's like a collective deep breath after centuries of, well, let's call it intellectual slumber.
It was a time of rediscovering classical knowledge, pushing the boundaries of art, science, and celebrating human potential.
And challenging long-held assumptions.
Exactly. Think Copernicus and Galileo, daring to question the geocentric view of the universe.
The idea that the Earth revolved around the sun, that was revolutionary. And a bit dangerous, right? Didn't Galileo get into some trouble for that?
He did. But Sophie's world brings this to life through the story of his experiment with inclined planes.
Where he demonstrates that objects of different masses fall at the same rate.
Exactly. It beautifully illustrates the power of observation and experimentation.
The foundation of the scientific method, which was rapidly transforming our understanding of the world.
It was a shift from a purely faith-based view to one grounded in empirical evidence.
A pivotal moment in our intellectual history.
It was. And from this point of incredible change, Sophie's world takes us into the Baroque period, a period characterized by grandeur and a fascination with the fleeting nature of life.
So we're talking dramatic art and music, elaborate architecture, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's a period that embraces scientific discoveries, but also grapples with the tension between earthly pleasures and spiritual longing.
The Baroque period was like holding two opposing ideas in mind at the same time. It's like, let's celebrate the beauty and intensity of life because we know it doesn't last forever.
You've got it. It's a time when philosophers and artists are really exploring the interplay between illusion and reality.
It makes me think of Shakespearean tragedies. You have these grand stories exploring the depths of the human condition, but always with that awareness of mortality.
Precisely. The Baroque period embodies both the grandeur and fragility of life. And through it all, philosophical inquiry continues to evolve, seeking deeper meaning, urging us to look beyond the surface of things.
Okay, so we've been on this incredible journey with Sophie as she dives deep into philosophy, right? Guided by this mysterious course she's found.
Right.
But here's where Sophie's world takes this completely wild turn.
What do you mean?
It turns out Sophie, well, she's a character in a story.
Well,
A fictional being created by an author who's writing all this for his daughter Hild.
hold on. So you're saying Sophie isn't real? That this whole philosophy course, it's all just part of some bigger story?
Exactly. It's this brilliant meta-narrative twist. Gardner, the author, forces us to step outside the story, question the very nature of reality.
It's like, are we also just characters in someone else's story, unaware of the bigger picture?
Right. And that's just the beginning. Sophie starts finding postcards, letters addressed to Hild. She realizes she's not just learning about philosophy, she's trapped inside a philosophical experiment.
Talk about a mind-bending concept.
It really makes you think about free will, consciousness. If Sophie is just a figment of the author's imagination, can she have real thoughts, real feelings?
Is she making her own choices? Or is she just following a script? Are we...
It's a question philosophers have grappled with for ages. And Gardner pushes it further by having Sophie rebel.
rebel against the author?
Yeah, she tries to exert her own free will, break free from the confines of the narrative. It's like she's hacking into the mainframe of her own existence.
Why did she do that?
She even wonders if philosophical concepts, things like logic, could be used as weapons against the author's control.
It's a battle for autonomy, for freedom within the very fabric of the story.
Exactly. And this is what makes this book so much more than just a history of philosophy. It's about storytelling, about the nature of reality itself. Can we ever really know the difference between what's real and what's imagined?
It's like that scene in a movie
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
where a character touches a mirror and it ripples,
Yeah.
revealing something else entirely.
It makes you question everything. And hold on, it gets even wilder. Sophie and Alberto, her philosophy tutor,
Yeah.
they actually find a way to reach out, to pierce the veil of their fictional world.
No way. How?
They become aware of Hild, the real-life reader. They even try to communicate with her, leaving little clues, messages in the story.
So it's this blurring of fiction and reality. We're left wondering what's real. Does it even matter?
And that, I think, is the beauty of Sophie's world. It doesn't give us easy answers. Instead, it leaves us with this lingering feeling that maybe, just maybe, there's more to our reality than we realize.
It's both unsettling and exhilarating, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that brings us to the final provocative thought from Sophie's world. What if, as some philosophers believe, everything is one? How does that change how you see your everyday life, your place in the grand scheme of things?
It's a big question, one that challenges us to consider the interconnectedness of all things.
It really makes you think about the potential unity of everything. That our actions, no matter how small they seem, can have ripple effects far beyond what we can imagine.
It's a humbling and awe-inspiring thought, isn't it?
It really is. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Sophie's world, a whimsical, thought-provoking journey through the history of philosophy and beyond.
It's been a fascinating exploration of reality, consciousness, and the power of storytelling.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your own philosophical curiosity and inspired you to keep questioning the world around you.
Because, as we've learned from Sophie, the journey of discovery is just as important as the destination.
And there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to understand.